Hi guys and welcome. Today I thought I would share 6 beautiful rose fragrances with you. I recently picked up these 6 samples and they all happen to be predominantly rose-based fragrances. They're all luxury brands. It's quite a nice mixed bag or mixed bunch of rose fragrances here. I'd say about half of them have been around for a little bit. The other half are relatively new. I think maybe either launched this year or last year. But I thought it'd be nice to, film it and give you my impressions on all these, because it could be that there's one in here that you're interested in. Nobody wants a long intro, so let's just start with the first one. I'm going to start with one from Musicology called The Rose. The Rose from Musicology is this one here. Please ignore my ugly hand with the plaster on it. So this company is Musicology. I'm not familiar with the company. I've seen a lot of posts on Instagram about Musicology, but nothing much on YouTube. So the rose is classed as a woody floral rose. And if I was rich and reckless, I would have blind bought this fragrance based on the notes alone, because the note breakdown is just perfection to me. And my cats are all talking to each other up there, so you might hear some weird noises. So in the top of this fragrance, there's raspberry and peony, okay? The mid, we have damask rose and violet. And in the base, we have white woods and vanilla. That to me sounds like the perfect party of notes to make the most beautiful rose fragrance. So when I first tried this out, I tried it on my clothes, not on my skin. And it really had me from pillar to post, this one, because I could smell the most beautiful rose and violet combination. And I love a good rose and violet if it's done right. But it's rare to find one that is just a rose and violet that's not overpowered by something else. What I had trouble with this one was I got this strange, like a sour cream or a sour milk thing sort of riding above the rose and violet. Couldn't understand what that was all about, because there's no iris listed in here, and it was like this, you get that raw, that orris root that can smell like carrots or clay or raw potato. It kind of had this weird sour wash of that riding above the rose and this violet, and it was in the air. The sillage of this in the air was so beautiful. It was this exquisite sillage of an expensive, luxurious rose, violet, rich lady kind of a scent, but up close you get this strange sour cream. But on my skin, this strange sour cream, sour milk note was so much more emphasized, and it smelled exactly like baby wipes. A sickly kind of baby wipe smell, which was such a shame, because that completely put me off. The essence of this rose and violet would have been absolute perfection had it not had this other weird sour milk baby wipe entity. But it's still worth trying out, because it could just be my chemistry, and if you are a rose and violet lover, this could really work out beautifully for you. There's almost a lipsticky nuance in here. For me, it was a pass, which is a real shame, but at least I tried it. So that is my first sample for you. So that is the Rose by Musicology. Oh, and the Rose, this was one that was, I think, quite newly launched. I think it was launched last year. Whoops. Let's move on to one from MDCI. This is called Rose de Siwa. Siwa. That is actually an I. That was wrongly printed, I believe, and they've obviously changed it into a little I, but that's Rose de Siwa. And also massive shout out to Javoy. You'll see Javoy on a lot of these labels. Javoy they have branches in both Paris and in London. Have a beautiful range of niche fragrances, and their sampling service is absolutely impeccable. They will not only fill up these bottles, I think you're paying for 1 ml. They announced that it's a ml, but they fill these up, and there's a good 3 mils in there, and they always send extra samples as well. So definitely check out Javoy. So I didn't realise that MDCI had a fresh rose based fragrance. When I bought my one from this house called Chow Chow San, which is a beautiful cherry blossom and pear fragrance, this one was around at the same time, so it's not a new released fragrance at all, and I hadn't heard of this one, so I would have probably liked to have tried this before I bought Chow Chow San. But either way, I love Chow Chow San. I saw this on a post on Instagram recently, and I just figured, you know, I have to obviously at least try it. It's classed as a fresh floral rose fragrance. So we've got top notes of peony, lychee, hawthorn, middle notes of rose violet, bottom or base of musk, of vetiver and cedar. So again, lovely note breakdown here. So I would definitely agree this is a fresh rose. This is definitely in the fresh rose variety. In fact, it reminds me a bit of Le Col Noir from Maison Dior, which I have actually got and own, and I really enjoy it. I find the peony and vetiver are quite forward in this, and that kind of brings this sort of dry shampoo quality, because peony is very shampooy, and vetiver obviously it's fairly a dry scent, and together they sort of form this sort of dry shampoo feel, but still with a really fresh rose. In fact, the rose is quite light. It's quite a silky sweet rose. It's very light. And actually, overall, it got me this impression of a white rose for some reason. It just seems to be a very safe, simple overall composition. And it made me think of a fresh white rose. There's obviously a slight green element to it. It goes quite musky in the dry down, this one. This is a very safe, I would say, if you're looking for a nice, fresh, easy, safe rose and you're not afraid to spend some money, because these aren't cheap. They're expensive because they're that beautiful presentation. Well, the full presentation of the MDCI bottles is absolutely stunning. It has that beautiful portrait top, but they come without that if you can't afford that part, but they are incredibly beautiful. It is an expensive house, and this is a very simple, fresh rose fragrance. That's how I feel about it, but it is a very pleasant one. So that is Rose de Siwa, or Siwa by MDCI. Next, I'm going to jump over here to one called Rose Shot, and this is by Olfactive Studios. So this is classed as a woody citrus rose. It's got top notes of pink pepper, bergamot and elemi. We've got the mid of Turkish rose. Turkish rose, I've noticed, is one of my favourite roses. Every time I fall in love with a rose fragrance, normally Turkish rose, I've noticed. Anyway, and white flowers in the mid, and in the base we've got cedar, oak moss and oud. This was much darker than I expected it to be. In fact, it's very dark, it's very woody. It actually has a sharpness, there's a sharp element which makes me think of patchouli. But we've got that oud and we've got the oak moss and cedar, so there is this woody, you know, potentially sharp woody base. Definitely picked up a lot of that elemi in the opening. And elemi is quite a sharp lemony resin scent. It's a wood resin that smells lemony. I do pick up on that, and that with the oudy base is giving me strong patchouli vibes, and that's quite a dominant combination, and it creates quite a darkness in this fragrance. And although there's white flowers in the mid, that rose is dark. It is a dark, mysterious, dark red rose. This is really beautiful. It is. It's got this demeanor of mystery and seriousness, and in fact, when I was wearing this, it made me think of like a duke or some sort of dark lord, let's just say like a vampire even, that hosting this like beautiful grand soiree party, and he's wearing Rose Shot, and it's bewitching all of his female guests like a love potion. You can imagine this dark scene, this dark room with candles, and you've got this, I don't know, this very gothic ambience, and he's this brooding host that's just wearing beautiful Rose Shot and bewitching all the ladies. That's exactly what I thought of smelling this. It's got that dark, serious but romantic gothic feel about it. I can't wear this. The wood, the oak moss, the oud and the elemi is just playing with my head a bit too much, you know. If I was to smell this on anyone, I would probably follow them around like a lost puppy. The stunning rose fragrance for absolutely anyone to wear, and it's definitely worth checking out. That is Rose Shot by Olfactive Studios. Right, next we're going to jump to this one in the middle, and this is by a company called Indult, and this is called Manakara, and it apparently seems to have leaked. Now, Indult is a company I'm not familiar with. There's only 4 in the range, I believe, and the one most people are familiar with is one called Tiholt, which is a very rich, dark vanilla fragrance, and I'm guessing that the fact that it's called Tiholt is because it has a natural Tahitian vanilla, which I've never smelled or checked out Tiholt because I'm not a huge vanilla lover, but I recently saw Demi Rowling talk about this one. So I think it was her last video that she just put out, talk about Manakara, and she has influenced many a successful purchase. When I heard her talk about Manacara, I just had to jump on it. This is a sweet, fruity rose. I've only found 3 notes listed. It's lychee, which is an important note in this one. There's also Turkish rose and Bulgarian rose. Now, Manakara is a place in Madagascar. It's an area that's famous for producing the most beautiful lychees. So the lychee fruit obviously is quite an important part of this fragrance. I think that rose and lychee is a match made in heaven. It is a glorious combination. But what is missing from the note breakdown in this is a lorry load of sugar, a lorry load of sweet vanilla, or a lorry load of white chocolate. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the shrimps, those pick and mix pink shrimps, the pink nuggety candy, which is just soft and very, very sweet. If you stick your nose in a bucket load of them, that's what this smells like to me. It's like a pick and mix heaven. It's all pink, 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 and sugar. If the Tooth Fairy had a scent, this would be it. It's more about the sweet, sugary fruitiness than it is about the rose. But despite all that, it doesn't smell cheap. It doesn't smell juvenile somehow. It smells so, this is narcotic. This is so addictive. This is pink, fruity, pick and mix, and white chocolate. This is what this is. Whatever this other thing is that's creating this white chocolate element, kind of stopping it from being a straight up E number and smelling cheap. It doesn't smell cheap. It just smells incredibly sweet. You've got to love pink sweets to appreciate this one. I am addicted to it, and it hasn't evaporated. That's just me getting as much as I possibly could out of it. In fact, I've even broken the top off and wiped as much as I can and used as much as I can of it. It's £160 for 50 mils. The projection on this is okay. The longevity actually is pretty okay, but it's no development and it's not interesting exactly. There's no complexity to this. But if you love your sweet pink sugary scents, then definitely check this one out. It's definitely worth getting your nose on. So that is Manakara by Indult. So next is one that will come as no surprise to anybody that watches my channel, because obviously I am a massive fan of Delina. I haven't rushed to get a sample on the new Delina because I didn't want to fall in love with another Delina. I have 2. Based on it being a light, more, you know, fresh rose scent, I figured, you know, I've got quite a few of those now, so do I really want to spend a lot of money on another? The new La Rosee, or the new Delina La Rosee, of course, is claiming to be the fresher interpretation of Delina. Lychee, pear and bergamot in the top. We've got peony, water notes, Turkish rose, there's that Turkish rose again, and floral notes in the mid, and then we have white musk, woody notes, and Haitian vetiver in the base. This opens up so beautiful. It's sweet, sparkling pear and lychee. What a beautiful combination that is. As that unfolds, in comes that familiar Delina. And although there isn't any rhubarb in this, I just think of Delina as a rhubarb rose now. So even without the rhubarb, I get that original beautiful pink Delina. It's like Delina underwater somehow. It's like it's coated in water. So there's those watery notes, which I really enjoy. As this dries down further, I get a lot of musk. It starts to smell more like the Delina Exclusive in the dry down. As if you've been wearing Delina Exclusive on your clothes, and then like days later you smell your same clothes and you get that aftermath of the Delina Exclusive. That's what this dry down reminds me of, but with a bit of musk. So it goes through this whole stage of being this big, juicy, bright pear and lychee in the start, then transitioning to Delina underwater, and then coming out of the water and going into a much softer version of Delina Exclusive. It's an interesting one, this. I think there's no question that I don't need it. If I was rich and I was more of a collector, I would get this in a heartbeat because it's a beautiful addition to the trilogy. I think if you haven't yet picked up either the Delinas and you're interested, I would actually start with this one because it's interesting how it develops through those stages. I think you've got a bit of both, plus that additional fruity, sweet opening of the pear and the lychee in this one. Really happy to have finally tried it. Obviously, that is my thoughts on the new Delina La Rosee. So our 6th and final rose fragrance today is one by Floris, And this is called White Rose. So Floris is a London-based fragrance company that have been around for a very, very long time. I think they're in the shadow of Penhaligon's a bit. They've been going a long time, very respectable, highly regarded company. And actually, I think I read this right. I've got here written that White Rose came out in 1800. It's still worn and it's still enjoyed. And in particular, this one, White Rose, was worn by our Queen on her wedding day. It's a nice time to actually talk about this fragrance and breathe a bit of life into it again. I was curious about this one because it's called White Rose. I wanted to see how you'd interpret a white rose through the scent. We've got top notes of green notes, aldehydes and carnation, mid notes of rose, violet, iris and jasmine, and we've got we've got base notes of powdery notes, musk and amber. It's classed as a powdery floral rose, and actually not that powdery at all. The rose is actually very fresh. There is definitely a lovely fresh dewy rose in here. There is this sort of creamy pure white quality, and I guess we're getting that from perhaps the jasmine and the iris. You often find carnation in these more vintage fragrances, and it gives a lovely soft bit of spiciness. But the combination of a very, very dewy rose and a soft powdery iris produces a very smooth, soft and actually white smelling rose. You do get the musk in the dry down, you do get that musk. It's very soft, it's incredibly clean, doesn't bother me. Musks often bother me, but this one just blends with everything. It's so beautifully blended. It's just this one slightly cold leaning white rose scent. I pick up a bit of the violet in here. That's, I think, giving that kind of cold, slightly powdery element, even slightly chalky element. It's a beautifully balanced fragrance. It doesn't smell vintage at all, actually. It's very soft, it's very safe, very angelic, almost translucent. Yeah, I really like it. I really like it. And it's a very affordable one as well. I think you can get 100 ml for about £80. Perhaps this one will find its way into my collection. I don't know. But I do really like it. So that is White Rose by Floris. Let me know if you've tried any of these and what you think of them, especially the Indult Manakara. I'd love to know what other people think of that one. I'm going to leave you there. Hope you enjoyed the video. That's all, guys. Take care. Over and out.